Hello and welcome to our BOC preparatory workshop and our self-study guide. We are going to talk about our assignment description using our BOC references. This should follow up after you have identified your weaknesses, and this is going to set us on a course for preparing our study guide by first identifying our weaknesses and then finding the references that we need to prepare that study guide. So part one of the assignment description tells us to access and review the role delineation study in the BOC reference list. Again, these are going to be our best friends. Get into that role delineation study. It's a very important document. We referenced this earlier. I've pulled it up here, and again there's a link on the assignment description to pull it straight up if you want, or again this is available on your home page on My Graceland under BOC preparatory workshop. So we're going to use that 0107 again, that promoting healthy lifestyle and behaviors. And you're going to see in here that again the list of knowledge and skills associated with that. So you're like, well, where do I find this information? So let's pretend that it was that first part, or that first knowledge piece, the 010701, the accepted guidelines for exercise prescription. So you're going to go below. Below each domain is a list of references that you might pull that up from, and you're looking for what might match up, what titles or what references seem to match maybe those areas of weakness or what you don't feel real strong in. What you're going to notice a lot of, and I want to encourage you to do this, is that whether it be in task 1 or domain 1 or domain 3, you're going to see a lot of reference to the position statements, the NATA position statements and the consensus statements. I'm strongly encouraging you right now to make sure that you have read each one of those consensus statements and position statements, and especially pay attention to it if it shows up in an area of your top 10 weaknesses and it's listed under each reference in the role delineation study. So here's just one example. So under 107, here's the list of references that you may want to check out. There is, as I said, another reference, and it's the BOC reference list. And it looks something like this. And again, this is in your handouts in My Graceland off to the right-hand margin on the home page. But here is just a list of a bunch of references that the BOC uses to pull test questions. But these are not organized by task domain at all, whereas the role delineation study gives a little more clarity as to what references may be associated with that domain. So that may be helpful. So what you do is you list your top 10 task weaknesses and then find 2 to 3 references for each. I would strongly encourage doing at least 3, if not more, and with each one of those you're going to list the reference in the table, or you may provide a link. So for part 2, it's going to ask you to show evidence. So you can do this in a number of ways. You can provide the link to that particular reference. You can show a library receipt. You can show a photo with you having accessed the textbook. And the key with this is it really should expand beyond the current textbooks that you have available to you from your coursework. Because remember, just because we use certain textbooks for our classes does not mean that those are the only textbooks that questions can be drawn from. It is impossible to teach you every single test type question that could be pulled from any particular text. Instead, we teach you the specific competencies as dictated by the NATA and the CATIE, and we make sure that those are taught to you, but realize there is differences in the way questions are asked, differences in the way things are taught, and that there's going to have to be some autonomous learning on your part. And the way you do that is by accessing alternate references. So as we look at these references, I strongly encourage you to find references outside those that are already offered at our university, and instead access ones outside of. So these can be links, or just go to the library and request interlibrary loan, and you can get access to these textbooks. If many of you are finding that if you partner up with someone that you are finding that you're weak in similar areas and there's multiple textbooks, you may each do an interlibrary request and just share. divide and conquer. It's an economy of time, and teaming up. There's nothing wrong with teaming up so that you can get your hands on multiple resources. So the key with 2 is to show the evidence. You all are pretty savvy with your phones. Quickly click a picture, and you can share that JPEG or that link through the assignment and put it on here for us. Then the next important part is show evidence that you took notes. So from each one of those references, show us that you've taken notes. Again, this can be flashcards. It can be done through programs like Study Blue or some sort of electronic flashcard system, or it may just be an e-folio or a hard copy folio that you're keeping. All you have to do is show evidence that you took notes from those areas. And again, this just shows us that you are compiling the research and the resources that you need to be successful on the BOC exam. As you look through those, part 4 here is specifically identify the references that were most helpful to you. Not every reference is going to be perfect, and some are more helpful than others. Identify which ones were most helpful, so that way, if you need to get back into the material and you don't have all your resources available to you, especially if you had them on interlibrary loan, then you can go back and request that text again, or borrow that text from one of your professors. Which ones were most helpful? And then conversely, on item 5, identify which references were least beneficial. So what were the ones that really didn't help you at all, or didn't answer the questions, or maybe it wasn't exactly what you thought it was? Enlist those as well, because what you don't want to do is be wasting your time going back on those. So part 4 and part 5 is really, that's kind of your active reflection. That's looking back at the material and reflecting what was good, what was maybe not as good or not as helpful. But on the flip side, you show evidence that you've collected them, and you also have taken detailed notes from each of them. So that should conclude the tutorial on how you can complete the assignment on using BOC references. And remember that you can always ask questions. If there's anything about this assignment that you don't understand or are confused about, please contact us at any point in time. Thank you.